Toronto has always had a complicated relationship with its roads. From traffic congestion and gridlock to cycling safety and pedestrian rights of way, every Torontonian has an opinion about how our streets should function. But in recent years, few issues have sparked as much heated debate as speed cameras. For some, these automated boxes are silent heroes, standing guard outside schools, slowing down reckless drivers, and preventing tragedies before they happen. For others, they're symbols of government overreach, nickel and diming working people under the guise of safety. And now, the fight has escalated. In 2025 alone, we've seen cameras not just debated, but cut down, smashed, spray-painted, and torn out of the ground. This isn't just about traffic enforcement anymore. It's become a story about safety, money, politics, and public trust. The Automated Speed Enforcement, or ASE program, launched in 2020 with just 50 cameras strategically placed in community safety zones, areas near schools and playgrounds. The rollout was honestly pretty rocky. Drivers complained about sudden ticket spikes, while parents praised the program. By 2023, the program expanded to 75 cameras and began rotating locations every 3 months. As of 2025, Toronto now operates 150 cameras, including 101 mobile units and 24 permanent fixtures. Toronto isn't unique here. New York City has more than 2,000 cameras, while London, UK, has a network so vast that fines generate over £100 million annually. What makes Toronto's case unique is just how divided residents are, and how quickly the cameras themselves have become targets. Let's break it down. In 2024, Toronto's cameras issued over 560,000 tickets. That brought in about $40 million in revenue. The Parkside Drive camera alone wrote 67,786 tickets, including one motorist clocked at 154 kilometers per hour in a 40 kilometer per hour zone. That single camera generated $7 million in fines. So it works out to about 7.5 tickets per minute, every minute of the year. On the safety side, there's measurable impact. A study by Sick Kids and Toronto Metropolitan University found that speeding fell by 45% in camera zones. Operating speeds dropped by 7 kilometers per hour on average. The risk of pedestrian death when struck by a car drops dramatically when speeds fall below 50 kilometers per hour. So, yeah, these reductions aren't trivial. This is where tempers flare. Supporters argue the cameras are working exactly as intended. They catch speeders, deter dangerous driving, and save lives. If the city makes millions in the process, that's a win-win. Critics argue the opposite. The fines are excessive, the system unfair, and the placement of cameras feels more like a cash grab than a safety initiative. Why place them on wide, 4-lane arterials where speeds naturally creep up, instead of smaller streets? Why not issue warnings first? And the kicker, where does the money go? City officials say revenue goes back into road safety programs. But with ticket numbers in the hundreds of thousands, some drivers feel the cameras are less about safety and more about filling budget holes. Here's where things turn dramatic. On September 9, 2025, 16 cameras were vandalized overnight in one coordinated sweep across Toronto. Parkside Drive's camera has been cut down 4 times in 5 months. Others have been spray-painted, smashed with bats, or even torched. The vandalism costs thousands to repair each time, and yet the city insists it will keep replacing them, no matter how many times they're destroyed. Mayor Olivia Chow summed it up bluntly. Don't speed and you won't get a ticket. If you're breaking the law, there has to be consequences. But Premier Doug Ford took the opposite stance, calling the cameras a tax grab and suggesting the province could step in if municipalities don't reconsider. This issue really divides people right down the middle. Parents who live near schools are strong supporters. For them, speed cameras mean peace of mind when their kids walk or bike to class. On the other hand, commuters and delivery drivers are usually opponents. They argue the system punishes the people who keep the city moving. For workers who drive all day, just a couple of tickets can mean hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars gone. Quick update. If you want to hear my full thoughts on today's topic, I break it all down on my podcast, where I share my personal views, extra details, and stories I can't always fit in here. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out anytime. Now back to the presentation. Cyclists and pedestrians are mostly supportive, pointing to reduced collisions and safer crossings. Local homeowners, though, are kind of mixed. Some welcome calmer traffic, while others really resent the noise and chaos when vandalism happens. A recent City of Toronto staff report explored the idea of limiting the number of infractions a driver could get from one camera before receiving just a warning instead. But, implementing such a cap would cost $36,000 in software updates and could cut into both revenue and deterrence. Officials calculated that each time a camera is moved, speeding drops by about 5,800 infractions. That's a reduction worth celebrating in safety terms, but it also means up to $520,000 in lost revenue every cycle. It's a classic case of policy versus practicality. How do you maximize safety while keeping enforcement fair and consistent? New York City has more than 2,000 cameras. They operate 24/7 and fines are capped at $50. The focus is on deterrence, not punishment. Over in London, UK, they use a combination of speed and red light cameras. The fines, well, they can be pretty steep. But the city, it invests heavily in public education to explain why these cameras are placed where they are. Now, moving on to Edmonton, Alberta, they faced a similar backlash. Critics, they accused the city of using what they call photo radar just to balance the budgets. In response to these concerns, Edmonton had to publish data to prove the safety benefits. And then there's Toronto's challenge. It risks being perceived more like Edmonton's cash grab model rather than New York's deterrence model. Here's something worth considering. A CLA Ontario survey found that 73% of drivers slow down when they see a camera. That means, like it or not, the cameras are doing their job. But here's the flip side. Nearly 1 in 4 Ontario drivers has already received a ticket. That's millions of people who now feel personally targeted. And when people feel the system is unfair, compliance drops and resentment builds. The city faces a tough choice. Stay the course, keep expanding cameras, stick with Vision Zero, and absorb the costs of vandalism. Reform the system, introduce warnings, cap tickets, or move toward education instead of fines. Or roll it back, scale down the program, as Premier Ford hinted, though this would likely anger safety advocates. One thing is certain, as long as the cameras stand, they'll remain a lightning rod for public anger and debate. In my next post, I'll be looking at Canada's growing reliance on automated enforcement tools, not just speed cameras, but red light cameras, parking blitzes, and even AI-based traffic monitoring. The question is the same. Are these policies protecting us or just squeezing our wallets? Toronto's speed camera saga is more than a traffic story. It's about how we balance safety versus fairness, prevention versus punishment, and public good versus public trust. On one side, you have parents, pedestrians, and cyclists demanding safer streets. On the other, you have working drivers feeling targeted, politicians calling out tax grabs, and vandals taking matters into their own hands. This much is clear. Speed cameras aren't going away quietly. Whether you love them or hate them, they've become a defining symbol of how Toronto governs its streets, and how we, as a city, respond when rules and frustration collide.